Hello and welcome to Not Without My Sister, the podcast where two sisters from Ireland living in the American Midwest talk about life, love, and everything in between. Oh, please. Listen, we never have a good tagline. I'm not saying that was good, but we have to work on it. We get a tagline.
That was really good.
If you haven't already, we would really appreciate if you consider supporting us on Patreon. Over on the Patreon, you'll get an extra episode each and every week. The most recent one, we've been talking about parenting styles. What kind of parent we are, what kind of parent we'd like to be, and what kind of child we wish we had. What kind of children we wish we had.
No. We are happy with the children we have.
I just wish they were more obedient.
You're not allowed to use the word obedient. Bo told me the other day it makes him cry, makes him feel like he's my servant. All I do is take care of you. When I make breakfast in the morning, you say, "Get your own breakfast, Bo. I feel like you're a servant."
I also love, and I pointed this out, how Bo thinks he's your servant when he's being forced to do things for himself.
Yes, well, I thought to myself, my parenting must not be as top-notch as I believed it to be. So,
anyway, you can hear more of that discussion over on our Patreon, patreon.com/notwithoutmysister.
So this week I was, actually not this week, I wrote this note down a couple of weeks ago. I was looking at Emmanuel Macron winning the French election. Oh, sorry, that's from The Little Mermaid.
That was terrible.
Because we love little fishies, don't you?
No, that's... Oh, we love little what?
Fishies.
I thought that was from, you sound actually like Lumiere being pervy with the feather duster in Beauty and the Beast.
Here's something for tempting the palate.
Jesus Christ.
Right?
You should write Disney songs.
Oh my God, I actually would love that.
You should see the look of wonder that's just crossed her face.
I would love that. I always wanted to be one of those Disney singers like Hayden Panettiere. Or any of those young ones who came in to not be the actress, but to sing the actual songs on the Disney soundtrack.
Hayden Panettiere?
Yeah. She sang one of the Disney songs.
Did she?
Yeah. And then Kristen Bell ruined it for me because then she became the actress plus
and
the singer.
What a bitch.
Absolute disaster. What was that great song? Love is an Open Door.
All my life has been a series of doors in my face.
And then suddenly what is it?
Bump into you.
I was thinking the same thing. That's the next bit. I've
been searching my whole life to find my own place. And maybe it's the party talking or the chocolate fondue. But with you, I see my place. And it's nothing like I've never done before. Love is an open door.
Okay, we don't need to sing the whole thing. Anyway, that song. Well, let's do that again. Just do a tiny snippet of it.
All my life has been a series of doors in my face.
And then suddenly I bump into you. Okay, anyway, that one. So, yeah, I was thinking, wasn't she just the best? But then that was really annoying because I would have loved to have been in that. But anyway, recently reading the news about Emmanuel Macron and his wife. And I was also thinking about a comment that was made, that a friend of mine made about Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore. And they were like, oh, sure wasn't, it was something like, oh, she's ridiculous because didn't she marry that guy so much younger than her? And I was thinking if I was a gazillionaire, Hollywood gazillionaire, would I necessarily be looking to marry some...
Oh, no. Aegis.
What?
Imagine,
which one?
Imagine, no, I'm just thinking imagine dating a 20-year-old or 25-year-old. Oh, Aegis.
But I've already dated Bruce Willis, right? I've already had my family.
I was like, what? When did you date Bruce Willis?
No, I've already had my serious family. Now I'm just looking for fun. And they're not all Egypts, are they? I mean, but I'm probably in Egypt too. So why is it only that men are allowed to date younger women and nobody questions it?
It's because of that trope about women being more mature than men. So it's at 20... No. But I mean, that's how people excuse it often, that they're like...
don't.
Yes,
70-year-old man marrying Anna Nicole, what's her face? Were people thinking she's so mature? No, they weren't. No, they weren't. And why is it nobody bats an eyelid? Even on our day-to-day, in our day-to-day life, I guarantee you we know a ton of people who have a big age gap and it's totally fine, right?
Yeah.
But... the other way around, it's because when I look at Emmanuel Macron and his wife, and I think to myself, God, that's a weird age gap. But is it?
I wonder if it's because so if you think about like the whole kind of idea that with hetero couples anyway, that, you know, the end goal, not for everyone, but like in people's minds, is to have kids, right? So I wonder if part of it is like, well, a young woman and an old man, they can still have kids. But an older woman and a young man's like, what? Well, like, what's he doing with her? Because she can't have kids. You know what I mean? She's past it. But it's just to do with like misogyny. Do you know what I mean? That it's like older men are learned and wise and sexy and like George Clooney. Like, you know what I mean? Like the adoration around George Clooney. There's never been an older woman that's been like held up as a sex symbol the way George Clooney has been. And has been considered to... What? Name one.
Dame Helen Mirren?
Nobody is like, Dame Helen Mirren's a ride. Nobody.
Yes, they are.
Okay, but like, she's not a sex symbol, Beatrice, in the same way.
Sex symbol.
Oh my God. Sex symbol. No, you're so annoying. Is this an actual joke? He's now taking the boys on joyrides down the hill on the lawnmower. He should be wearing a hat on that bald head, Beatrice. He had be burnt to shreds.
He had the Wildcats baseball hat on. Nash's
It was a bit small, was it?
It was absolutely tiny. God bless him. Okay, so Don's birthday is coming up in 2 weeks. Kevin just texted to remind me, but I'd actually remembered, which is very nice, Kevin. He's great at these dates. Birthday. He never forgets a birthday of anybody that he's ever met.
Like Mom and the license plates, but more useful.
Much more useful. Yeah, Mum's license plate one is not that useful. There's the car that so-and-so used to own back in 1972 in Cabra. Not that helpful, right? Great, thanks. Moving on. So anyway, his birthday's coming up and he's about to turn 43, which means that he and I, for the next 6 months until November, July 11, 5 months, will be the same age. And it is incredibly depressing to him because the minute I turn 44 now, which is a terrifying thought to me, but he will now sink into a dark depression between July 1st and November 3rd. On November 3rd, he will emerge like a phoenix from the ashes. Like a phoenix from the ashes, he will emerge and feel spry and youthful all over again. It is incredibly depressing to him to be the same age as me. Why? I cannot tell you. Same thing. So there are two things that Don does in the year that make him, it's actually probably what gets him through the year. On November 3rd, he is delighted with himself. On about July 5th, he is delighted with himself again when he discovers his Terry's chocolate orange from Christmas that he still hasn't eaten, which I just found behind my shoes this morning. I should actually hide it.
No, Beatrice. Take it out. Put an actual orange inside the foil. Or like a ball, put it back in. And then hide the chocolate somewhere else. That'd be funny.
That's actually brilliant.
That'd be amazing. Yeah, do that.
I have to try and peel the sticker off.
I'll do it. I'll do it for you.
No, you're not getting a shred of this
I'd
chocolate
love
orange.
a piece of Terry's chocolate orange right now. He
would.
wouldn't even notice there's one piece missing. Yum,
No.
yum, yum.
Sorry. So anyway, and I know, Rosemary, that you are how many years older than Brandon? 10?
2. You absolute weapon. I think I was 3 or 4 years older than my ex-boyfriend. It felt like I was 7 years older than when we first met.
It was a lot more than
that. I was 27.
Like he was 21 and you were 42.
No, I was 27 when we met and he was 24.
God, he seemed very young.
Very youthful.
You looked kind of settled and he seemed very young.
The age difference, though, I don't notice the age difference between Brandon and me because he's such a granddad.
Kind of. He's like an immature granddad. Can you do that?
He's just like a nerd granddad.
Like there are things that he does and things that he worries about that I like. They stop me in my tracks genuinely. Like
what?
Like yesterday when whatever I said, he's just so pragmatic. When I said that to you, I said he's so practical. Like something like where I would pose a question like, what are we going to do if it starts to rain? And like he will answer very pedantically, well, then we will go inside and we'll get some umbrellas. I'm going to make sure we have at least 50 umbrellas. And I go, I'm like, what? The answer is we'll get wet and then we'll get under the awning. You know what I mean? It's like I'm only asking. I don't even know why I'm asking this question. Maybe it's my problem.
Well, you can't have a throwaway question with any Americans, though. I find.
Rosemary, these are extremely general statements. That is not true, Rosemary. There are at least a couple of Americans who are extremely nuanced. There are many Americans. That's a silly thing to say.
What I mean is,
you only live in the Midwest. You've never even lived anywhere else.
The handful of Americans that I've met in the Midwest, I feel like are just very earnest. So if I go, Jesus, like, what's that person doing down there? Like, and what I mean is, like, what are they doing down there wearing shorts in really cold weather? They'll go, oh, they must be going to do X. And I'm like, I didn't want an answer. I'm just literally bitching about someone.
I
or
do
like,
think that's much more Midwestern. It's very earnest. The further north and the more central you become, you move, definitely.
yeah, or I'll go like, oh, like, what did I say to someone?
Really?
Really, Daisy? I mean, sorry, between the dog and the husband on the lawnmower, Beatrice. Like,
Do you think the dog...
what the fuck is he doing? They're just riding up and down the driveway. They're actually driving me mad. The noise of this. This is a professional endeavour.
Okay, go on. What the hell was
The
that?
fuck? He's got his messages typed. Swear to God, this is not the professional setup I'm expecting. Is it even still recording? Better be.
Better be.
Oh my God. Daisy! I said to somebody recently something like, oh God, I hate her. And it was about some celebrity who I cannot name because it's very divisive. Anyway, I was like, I hate her.
Jennifer Aniston.
No. And I don't hate Jennifer Aniston. And they went, oh,
Rebel Wilson.
no, you hate her. You hate Rebel Wilson. I don't hate Rebel Wilson.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. I think she seems like a knob, but I don't hate her.
You hate
it's different. No, I don't. Anyway, I went, oh, I hate her. And
Chiara Ferragni.
this friend went,
Who was it?
Not answering anymore.
Tell us.
Jamila Jamil.
Why do you hate her?
Do you not?
No, why would I hate her?
I find her so annoying. She's so earnest and woke, and everything is a fucking like issue that she's like has to get in the bandwagon of every
She's very
issue.
smart. Isn't she going out with
don't
that
annoy
dude?
me.
Vernon Kay.
Vernon Kay.
Did
No,
they
he's
break
married
up?
to Tess
that
What's Her
creep.
Chops.
No, he's a creep. No, isn't she? Oh, she's going out with that singer.
Oh yeah, James something.
Bay.
Yeah. Anyway, is James Bay? No, James Bay is the director.
No, James Bay, the singer.
James Bay's. Who am I? I'm thinking Michael Bay. Oh, you're right. Anyway,
sorry,
I apologize.
Beatrice.
I apologize, Beatrice. Take it back.
What did you think of that adorable clip that I sent you of Harry Styles calling out his
That was very
teacher?
cute. I already
Wasn't
said
that Mrs.
in
Vernon?
response to that. Mrs. Vernon.
Oh
Anyway.
my God, I couldn't believe it. I started crying at the end of it.
Oh my God. I said, I hate Jamil. And then immediately somebody was like,
That is divisive. Why do you hate her?
I just told you why I hate her. And then somebody was like, oh, why? And I was like, oh. And then I felt bad kind of going, oh, because she's like so well-meaning, which is a bad reason to hate someone. But like, I don't really hate her. You know, I don't know her. It's a celebrity. It's just like, ugh. I just feel ugh.
Maybe you should be more intentional.
Oh God! Just move on. Let's talk about your age gap. Tell me about your young husband.
Maybe you should be more intentional.
How does it feel to be older than your husband? You hag.
Maybe you should be more intentional. In
Maybe
your
you
choices.
should use more face cream, and you wouldn't feel so old, Granny.
So stupid.
Maybe you should be more intentional in your youthful endeavors. Maybe you should read some more graphic novels to keep up with your young hip husband. Maybe you should listen to the 20 FM so you know what's in the charts.
Can't even get a word out. Such a knob. Okay, so
maybe you should read some more young zines. Maybe you should get on Discord so you know what's going on.
Why do you keep wobbling your shoulders around? Is that what it means to be young? Okay, so Rosemary, you have obviously spent both decades of your dating life dating people almost a decade younger than you. So what did that
how
feel
is
like?
2 years almost a decade?
Both of your decades.
You know, actually, even when I was in
30s.
secondary school, I remember as soon as I went into second year, I fancied about 5 first years. Remember my friend at the time. My friends at the time were like, first years, and I was like, they're gorgeous. Oh, he's gorgeous.
Did you talk like that?
Yeah, I did, Beatrice.
No, you probably had your American
gorgeous.
accent even then. They're gorgeous.
No, Beatrice, I had my 24-karat gold bracelets. I probably talked a bit like this. He's gorgeous.
Didn't you have that voice thing as well? That croaky voice thing. What's it called?
Laryngitis?
No. What's it called? The thing that like loads of
vocal fry.
Yeah, you had total vocal fry when you were in secondary school. You were always like, oh my God.
I actually wasn't. You are so, and you're just trying to get back at me now because I was like, why don't you try to do some young things?
Vocal fry is very young. You were like, oh,
just stop. Just stop.
How do you have vocal fry with an Irish accent actually? It's hard to
go, oh, be Jesus.
Absolute copper. Okay, so Rosemary, what does it feel like to be older? I'm not. So like, it doesn't. I once went out with somebody who was 10 years older than me, but that's not the topic of this. And now I look back and go, that was creepy.
Oh, yeah. That was creepy because you were only in your early 20s, weren't you?
I was like 21, yeah. Yeah, but like at the time I didn't think so. But I think there was a lot more going on with that individual. Like
Sorry,
who?
Do you remember when I was 24, I dated the 35-year-old?
No.
Yeah, the one you loved who started the skydiving.
Oh, I hated him.
Yeah, I know.
You were only
I
24.
was 24 and he was 35, yeah.
What did you find so fascinating about him?
And he had a 14-year-old son. I was closer in age to his son than I was to him.
Oh, I remember pointing that out to you.
Next, I'm honestly expecting him to go down the driveway with Brandon on his lap next.
What the fuck is he doing? He's so annoying.
It's so annoying.
And Bo is screaming.
Oh, of course he is, Beatrice.
So anyway, I do remember thinking that. So you know what? Actually, maybe I do remember thinking that. I do think now that it was creepy, even like the right way around, so to speak.
Yeah.
But you took it. You took a lot of like teasing from your friends, and I do think that with your first boyfriend when he was 22 or whatever, and you were 29, that
he was 24 and I was 27.
Oh, sorry. I do remember that you were very embarrassed at that point. I think with Brandon, it's not that big of an age gap. But even as you get older, you're not as embarrassed. But at that point, you were embarrassed. And there was a lot of conversation about it with...
Maybe I was 29 and he was 24. I think it was actually a bit more of a difference.
Thank you. That sounds more accurate. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I think... I mean, there was a bit of teasing, like, from my friends in the beginning, kind of like, oh, like, he's so young. But, like, in terms of life stages, it felt at the time like we were in the same stage in the sense of we were both working. You know, it wasn't like he was in college and I was working, or he was in school and I was in college. We were both working. He was living at home and I wasn't. But that didn't really feel like, I think at the time as well, it was kind of coming out of the recession. A lot of people were still living at home. Like, some of my friends were still living at home. Do you know what I mean? So that didn't feel like that big a deal. But I think as we got further into the relationship, it became more of a big deal with stuff like, I think when we were going out for kind of 2 or 3 years, I was kind of going, okay, well, like, you know, what's the next step for us? Are we going to get engaged? Are we going to get married? Like, how do we feel about this? And like, even when we moved in together after maybe 2 or 3 years. And first he moved in with a friend of his because he was really like, I want to experience living with my friends. Right? I know. Listen, I was rolling my eyes as well. But like for him, he was like, that's a really important stage. Whereas I was like, I've literally lived with friends since I was 18 because I moved out when I went to college. You know what I mean? So I was just real impatient about that. I was like, it's not that great. And actually he discovered it wasn't that great. And then he was like after we moved in together, he was like, this is much nicer. Because you know, when you live with your friends, just like, it's a bit of a mess. 2 boys as well living together. Ugh, young men. But then stuff like, when I was ready to kind of move to the next stage, and I was also in my early 30s and was like, okay, you know, I want to think about getting married. I had up until then not thought I wanted kids, and then I kind of started to change my mind a bit, and I was like, maybe I want to open a conversation about this. But the whole time he was very much like, no, none of my friends are engaged, none of my friends are married, none of my friends are having kids. Like, that's not something I'm ready for.
I don't know that you wanted to get married per se. I think you wanted to know that he would be open to it at some point, and he wasn't even ready necessarily to commit to. Like, similarly to, I don't think I would have been. Like, age 26 or 27, I was going, I don't think I'm ever going to get married. I don't think I'm ever going to have kids. And I think that you, because I don't think you were pushing him for like, I know all your friends started to get engaged around that time and to have babies. And I think it became more the absence of any interest or like willingness to commit even in the future, like to a commitment around like, yes, this is something I think we'll consider. And if I do consider it, you would be the person that I would be with. Whereas it was more that like, and how do you say that to somebody? Yeah.
And I think like in the early days of kind of going out with him, I used to joke and be like, oh, you're going to, you know, I'm like your starter serious girlfriend. You're going to dump me. You're going to go out with somebody your own age. And I kind of joke about it. But then the longer we were together and like in the absence of any kind of even verbal commitment, I was like, oh, maybe this is going to happen, you know. And like at one stage I remember we had a conversation about getting engaged and he said, oh, I think probably like I'll be ready next year, right? And then I remember the following year bringing it up again, him being like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, you said next year, it's next year now. And he was like, oh, well, I didn't, you know, I didn't think next year would come around so quickly kind of thing. But like, it used to frustrate me sometimes because he'd be going, well, none of my friends are doing that. And I'd go, well, all of my friends are doing that. So we have to somehow meet in the middle. Like, we don't just do things because my friends are doing them the same way we don't not do things because your friends aren't doing them. Like, we are us and we have to do what's right for us, which obviously turned out was breaking up eventually. But yeah, I think stuff like that made it difficult. Like, I have friends who are actually a few of my friends are in relationships where there's a big age gap, and like another one of my friends is in a relationship with where the guy is much younger than she is, but he is from another country and lives in Ireland, And I think a lot of his friends are of all different ages. So he's not so much in a group of like his friends from school or from college who are all doing things in a kind of a certain order. You know what I mean? Like he has friends who would be in their late 30s and some friends who are in their early 20s, and, you know, has met all these friends from different walks of life. So in a way, it's less of a kind of divide between him and his friends now that he and my friend are married, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's more just groups of people.
Yeah, yeah. It's, you know, yeah, it's not so much following a certain track, whereas I feel like my ex was kind of, that was kind of what was happening in his mind, that he felt like he was the only one who was kind of dating somebody a bit older, and it kind of felt ridiculous to him, the idea that he would be getting engaged or getting married, whereas I was like, it's not that ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This lawnmower is ridiculous, going up and down the driveway. This is our career. Does he not realise this?
This is ridiculous.
He's ignoring your texts, so you may as well give up. Oh, I thought you were texting him.
I did text him.
Oh.
Ridiculous. I don't think he's too busy driving on the lawnmower to read my texts. So do you think, though, that...
Sorry, this is because he's younger. You're too mature to be riding up and down that lawnmower.
Thank you, Rosemary. It's because he's living out his final days of being 43. He's got another week left, and then he's going to be old.
Oh
no, sorry. His final days of being 42. Sorry, not that old. That would annoy him.
Oh God.
Yeah. So do you think that like there was ever a chance, like, do you think that you broke up because you wanted things, or do you think that the concept of a starter girlfriend or boyfriend is correct? Like, you do change dramatically between your 20s and your 30s. So do you think that had you met, like, and I mean, I'm not even using him as, not him per se, but like if you kind of take a step back and think about what advice you might give to somebody who's kind of older, dating a younger person, could man or woman.
Yeah.
Like, do you think that, I suppose it depends on the individual, but like I saw a lot of, like, I think between 20 and 30, you change so much, you know.
Yeah.
It's hard to be able to say, like, regardless of how much we love each other, like, you're the person for me, because everything you want and do and think about changes so dramatically.
Yeah. I mean, I don't actually think we broke up. I don't think we broke up necessarily because either of us changed, and I don't think we broke up because of the age difference. I think we broke up because actually we didn't have a lot in common. I think we really liked each other, and we like loved each other, and we got on really well. But I think as we got a bit older and we started to kind of, I don't know, live our lives, it became apparent that we wanted different things out of our lives. And, you know, even in terms of, he was much more social than I was, and he loved going out drinking with his friends and going out, you know, to parties and stuff. And that would be like, I wouldn't be that interested in that. Do you know what I mean? Even now, like, I like socializing, but like I'd be much happier going for brunch with friends than going out on a Saturday night with friends, if you know what I mean. I like definitely likes, like, I'm quite a homebodies, and I like having like my nights in and sitting on the couch and even like looking at my phone in silence with Brandon, you know what I mean? Whereas I think he would have preferred to like go out to the cinema and go out and, you know, just like had different ideas of what we wanted to do with our lives. And I think in the long term, we wouldn't have been happy compromising in that sense for one another. So I think that's actually maybe not in the moment. I think there were different factors that resulted in us breaking up, but I think that was our major incompatibility, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. You know, I think a lot about that because Don and I obviously have very different upbringings and backgrounds, and we're from different, like, he's from Miami and I'm from Dublin, right? But I think we have very similar values, like in terms of how we want to spend our time, what we value for our kids, like what we don't value, etc. And like sometimes I think I wish I was married to somebody who loved sports, right? Because like I don't love sports, but for my kids, I wish that I was married to somebody who loved sports and loved bringing them to sports and loved watching sports, and because it's just not what I'm interested in, you know. So it's like not just what you value, but also like how do you complement each other's values, right? But it makes me think about as well the idea that like if you don't, like I see a lot of people who don't end up being successful together because, to your point, it's also how they want to raise their kids is very different. You know, I remember I had a friend who, she didn't really talk about like politics and stuff with her boyfriend, but at one point he made a comment around like, if our child ever gets caught smoking a spliff, basically, I will march him or her down to the police station and turn him in myself and request that he or she be put in a holding cell for at least 2 days so that he or she learns a lesson. And she was like, do you think I think he's joking? It's like, I don't know, but that sounds a little bit extreme, you know, and you probably, those are kind of some of the things you need to sort of figure out before you go ahead and like have those kids.
Yeah.
But those are the things that like sometimes you don't even know them until they kind of crop up, you know?
Yeah. I actually remember a friend of mine having a conversation with her then fiance, or maybe he was her boyfriend, about he had gone to boarding school when he was a kid, and he was like, if we have kids, I want to send them to boarding school. And she was like, I would never send my kids to boarding school. Like, this is going to be a huge argument. No way am I sending the kids to boarding school. Like, what? And like, from primary school. She was like, how would you send a 5 or 6 year old to boarding school? And now they have kids, and I think it's totally gone out the window, because I think now that he has his kids, I couldn't send them away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was like funny that some arguments you think are really important, or some discussions, and then until you're actually in the moment, you can't really say what you'll do. But then by that same token, other arguments, you know, like you're not really going to marry someone who's like, I really believe in corporal punishment for kids, and just say to yourself, oh, he'll probably, or she will probably change their mind when we have kids. Like, you can't really rely on that at the same time.
Do you think that there was a lot of like, did your friends make fun of you, or do you think it was more in your head? Like at the end of the day, if you decide to go ahead and date somebody, like your friends might make a couple of barbed comments or jokes, but like,
oh no, like actually compared to how much we tease my other friend now, I didn't get teased a lot at all. Like sometimes we'll be like, oh, like we saw a lovely picture of him on Facebook. Is he making his confirmation? Like, you know what I mean? There's like they get way more shit than we used to get.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I think sometimes. I think after the first while, it kind of wore off. Like,
it's like any of those things,
slagging us off about it.
Like people make jokes, but usually they don't really care. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, like it only bothers you if you're already bothered by it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think probably if it had bothered me, they probably would have done it more. Do you know the way like you tend to tease people about things you know is going to get a reaction? Whereas I
don't do that.
Whereas I think at that stage, like it didn't really bother me, so I didn't react to it. Whereas I feel like there definitely have been, you know, there have been things that people kind of slag me about that I have reacted to that they now continue to slag me about forever.
Oh. What did mom and dad think of your younger partner?
I would have to ask them. We'll have to do our mum and dad episode now that they're here, actually. I don't know that they thought anything of the age difference. I think that they thought he was very, like, preppy is the wrong word, but I think he was nicer than they thought I would go for, if that makes sense. I remember actually mom meeting one of my, hilariously, mom was in work, and one of the guys she worked with saw me at the cinema with this guy. I was mad about him. Went on a couple of dates, totally obsessed. He was the guy who said something like, oh my God, I'm never getting over this, who said something like, oh, I just get really nervous around people I really fancy, and then dumped me that night, Beatrice. The guy that I begged on the street not to dump me. Anyway, this guy who worked in mom's office with her saw me at the cinema with this guy I was dating.
Were you dating him?
We were on a date, so I was dating him that night, but no, I probably wasn't dating him for any.
What's the soundtrack? Begging you.
Don't say what you're about to say. No. That's actually more like the song.
Oh my God.
Baby, think twice for the sake of our love. Anyway. It was actually, that was more the song. But I was dating him that night. Anyway, mom's colleague saw him and went into mom the next day and said, oh, I saw your daughter at the cinema last night with a guy. So he had tattoos up and down every arm. And mom was like, all right. And then he goes, oh no, I'm only joking. He was wearing a suit. And mom goes, oh, that definitely wasn't her. And it was. And I remember he came up to the house one day because we were going to the races. I'd got invited to the races from some press thing. We were going together, and he arrived up wearing a suit. And mom was like, he's very boring.
What?
Yeah.
Is it her fault? She's as nerdy. How is she making us, like, why is she setting us off on a track?
I have no idea.
On like a bad track is what I'm trying to say.
I have no idea. What do you think mum and dad thought about your younger husband?
Don?
Yes, Beatrice, you've only had one husband.
Yeah. Sorry. Actually, I had a couple of boyfriends who were younger than me. I'm just thinking now.
What did they think about your older boyfriend? They never said anything, did they?
They never said a thing, ever. I was like, would that I could be as self-contained. They've never said a thing. Now they say things like, well, he was very smart. They were very impressed because he was very, very good at the crusher.
Oh, he was, we were all impressed about that.
He was incredibly smart, in fairness.
He could do the crusher. He could get it out, Beatrice.
Yeah. He was very, very, very smart.
Yeah.
But, a lot, they were like, intellect isn't everything, but it's a lot.
Just goes to show, the way some people are like, oh, they're really won over by money. Our parents are just won over by brains.
I know. Well, that's nice.
Yeah, but like, he was still 10 years older than their 21-year-old daughter. They should have had... Remember, I was dating that 24-year-old when I was 14.
So why are you the favourite? Moving on. I do remember you were going on with that 24. That's creepy.
Maybe because I'm more huggy than you are.
No, you just said they value brains. Now mom says something like...
Oh my God, I didn't get that.
No, I know. Ding dong.
You bitch.
Now mom says, what were we supposed to do? What were we supposed to do about that 24-year-old? I'm like, you were supposed to not let him sleep in the spare bedroom. Well, I don't understand. But I don't understand this, like, what she means by that. What were we supposed to do? He wasn't required to sleep overnight in the bed.
He had the flu, Beatrice.
He could have had the flu in his own house, Rosemary.
Oh, he was living in some kind of hovel. It was like
Hovel,
it was
my
terrible.
arse.
Oh, it was terrible. Sharing with about 16 other lads. Awful.
Lads. What did they think of? They thought he thought they were going to be like, when the first time they met, Don like wore a long sleeve shirt to cover up his tattoos so as not to shock them. But like, as if they could care less.
Beatrice, I think he's coming back around on them.
I am going to go out and murder him. Like, he's not going to make it to 43. He's not going to make. Like, what is he even thinking?
How many times could they go up and down that driveway?
But you know as well, like the lawnmower was broken. He just fixed it. He's going to fucking break it again before he even mows the lawn.
Gasoline is at a record high.
Good point, Rosemary.
Every go up and down the driveway is about $20. You know what that is now? Let me tell you.
Stupidity.
When you have a younger partner, they just don't think these things through. Idiots.
Because you're so fiscally responsible.
That is bitchy. I'm trying to think now. What was the biggest... when do you notice your age gap? Do you know what I mean?
I don't have an age gap with Don. He just thinks we do.
Oh, yeah. A year. Oh, my God. I remember my ex-boyfriend.
6 months.
Listen, let's just name him because everyone could just look through my Instagram. Stephen was his name.
For God's sake.
Stephen didn't know who Bosco was.
Well, I mean, that says it all.
That does say it all.
That literally says it all. It's all these cultural references that are so meaningful that you just can't share them.
I'm so cultured. I'd be like, do you remember that episode of Bosco? And he'd be like, what?
How did Ashton Kutcher and Demi Moore share anything? She'd be like, my ex, Bruce, would be like, who? Die Hard. What's that movie? Yeah.
Everybody knows Die Hard, a Christmas movie. Thank you all so much for listening to Not Without My Sister. Just to reiterate, if you'd like more of our witticisms, get them on Patreon, patreon.com/notwithoutmysister. You can email us, notwithoutmysis@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram at Not Without My Sister, and individually at Beatrice McCabe and at Rosemary McCabe. Beatrice is very active on Instagram, never stops.
Oh, for God's sake, I was just thinking you stole my pool picture to put on your Instagram.
I put it on your Instagram now.
You should have. Anyway, most importantly, please write us a review. The reviews have been thin on the ground. Oh yeah,
Beatrice loves a review.
I love a review. I thrive on feedback. Good, bad or indifferent. 5-star only.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Bye. Not Without My Sister is produced by Liam Garrity. Sound and original music by Don Kirkland. And our original illustration is by Lindsay Nielsen.
Okay, chobble over there and press that space bar. That was
Go over there and fucking murder him. No, it was only 30. It was only 33 minutes. But it wasn't too long.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Seemed very long. I thought we started at 1:20. Oh yeah, it's only 1:54.
Liam, keep that in.
Absolute thick.
Not Without My Sister is a member of The Warren, the home of great Irish podcasts. As is my podcast, Meet Your Maker. You'll find more great shows at thewarren.ie.